Welcome to the Systems Edge, where we have those conversations that usually happen behind closed doors, conversations about operations, blind spots that can cost companies millions of dollars. And today, my guest is Tasha Preisner from Demar Consulting. Tasha, thanks for being here and really appreciate you taking a minute to share some wisdom with us today. Thank you. To start, Tasha, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your role at Demar, and what Demar does in general?
Yes, thank you for having me. I have been in the accounting industry for about 20 years. I have always wanted to help people. And so I started in the nonprofit world and I wanted to then go into having my own firm. So about 2012, I opened my first firm, but it was a solo venture and there was just only so much I could do as one person. And when I maxed out my bandwidth, I started thinking a little bit bigger. So I met Eric Demar and we decided to go into a partnership together. And we started Demar Consulting Group. I'm one of the founding partners. And we now have multiple departments. We have an accounting department, we have a tax department. Taxes are my lifeblood. I live and breathe taxes. So even though I've helped to build all the departments, I try to stay in the tax department and stay in my lane these days. And we have made systems where we can help a lot more people than what I could just by myself. We have a wealth management department and a business analytics department.
Okay.
Then I decided that I was really tired of making these nice tax forms and just throwing them into the dumpster fire that is the IRS. And so when I saw an opportunity to join the Taxpayer Advocacy Panel, that is a civilian panel that is meant to help improve the IRS from the inside as not an employee, more as a volunteer, I signed up for it and they elected me to a 3-year term of office. And so I'm on the communications committee, which is more of their technology committee, working with chatbots, working with the online portals. And there's a lot of dumpster fires to fix. It's been a year of chaos. I'm hoping to write an article on that, the 2025, the year of chaos in the IRS,
Year of
but
Chaos. That's your
especially now
title,
that
right?
it's closed down.
Yeah.
But, that's what I do, is I just try to help as many people as I can through the tools that I have.
Yeah. Based on what I'm seeing in the news, you might be able to write a back-to-back article for next year too.
Oh,
We'll see
yes,
how
next
next
year's
year
gonna be a
goes.
dumpster fire as well,
It looks like it, doesn't
especially
it?
digging out of this dumpster fire for
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah. I always wonder how my own CPA keeps up with I just don't know how you do it. I really don't. But kudos to you for being able to keep track of it and enjoy it. Like we need people to enjoy that world. So thank you for your efforts to help us all.
That's what I
Um,
do hire. I hire people who live and breathe taxes, and it you don't realize that similar in the tax world and in the accounting world, financial world in general, there are so many specialties. It's similar to the medical world where you have the general practitioners and then you have the specialists who are like feet specialists and neurologists and heart specialists. You have that in the financial world where people will either love to do IRAs and wealth management, and people who love to only do bookkeeping, and people who love to only do taxes, and they will hate other parts of the
Interesting.
world. They will hate audits, they will hate taxes, they will hate wealth management. And so that's what I look for when in my department when I hire is I look for the people who have that true passion for what they're doing.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I can imagine an emerging category would be digital asset management as well. So reading more and more about that all the time. That's another rabbit trail, right? We could go down.
It is, especially since the IRS is coming out with their new 1099 DA form, and it's only going to track the income. It's not going to track the expenses going out. So that all the crypto wallets, whenever starting next year, whenever they send out their forms for the first year, it's going to have the gross income only So all of those transfers you're doing from wallet to wallet is going to show income, which isn't going to be truly income.
Right.
And so you are going to have the burden to track all of the monies going out, or else you're going to be taxed on it.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
that's going to be new for everybody as of next spring.
Another little dumpster fire, part of the bigger
Another
picture.
dumpster fire for all of
Exactly.
us.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah. What's a typical day look like for you? Like what, it sounds interesting. I mean, it sounds like obviously you're involved in operations, but you've siloed yourself a little on purpose and with strategy behind that. But what's a typical day like for you? Like from, like yesterday, typical
Actually have
Tuesday.
typical days.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
Night owl.
Okay.
And a lot of people in the tax world are naturally night owls, which works great for tax season because we stay up to file tax returns at midnight a lot of times. And so I'll actually be texting my team at midnight that are they're up naturally at midnight working. I don't ask them to do that. That's just what we're doing.
Right.
But typically, I like to start my day with exercising. Of course, like everybody, start with breakfast, usually a healthy breakfast. I start with a good long exercise, especially if I'm training for any sort of competition that I'm doing. Then I get to work. That's usually when I'm doing answering emails, answering my team that's already starting to contact me. I have meetings that usually start early in my day, and so I'm doing meetings, doing podcasts, writing articles. I've got a number of articles that have hit Yahoo Finance, NASDAQ, AOL, trying to fit those in, dealing with dumpster fires that are showing up. Um, by evening time, I hit the gym. That's my mini mental vacation every about 4 times a week. Um, I do jujitsu in the evenings, and it's the only way I can turn my brain off of work. And because it's hard to think about working when you're in a chokehold.
Yep. 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 It's funny. I was going to ask this question later
Work
on.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Yes.
You 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 brought
And
you
then I
brought up
usually
the
come back.
training and what's that?
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say you brought up the training word and the word jujitsu, and that was actually a question I had, but I'm going to just jump to it and just say you wrote an article recently about how training in jujitsu helped you through tax season. You want maybe you
Yes.
comment on how that martial arts is translated into business operation systems mindset, or that you have. So you kind of alluded
It
to it
has
there. Let's
helped
just see where that goes.
It has helped a lot. For one, it keeps me a lot more calm and centered. Um, it has trained me to be calm in tough situations. Jujitsu is all about of grappling, and you are fine. Especially, I'm the smallest on the mats, and I am constantly in tough situations. I'm constantly in arm bars and chokeholds, and my arms being attacked. And you have to take a moment to center yourself and think, how am I going to get out of this?
Interesting.
And that is a very important skill when people are panicking during tax season because tax season is intense. This October is always a very much more intense time of tax season than April. April, we have extensions we can rely on. April, people are usually getting refunds, so they're getting their taxes done early. The procrastinators will do their extensions and then they'll wait till October 15 to do their taxes. And oftentimes they're showing up with their paperwork in chaos and they're showing up late because they're procrastinators. And they are often panicking a little bit. And so we had to take a moment as tax preparers to triage everything that was going on. It was like emergency room at midnight on a full moon. And so it was just taking everything we could to keep ourselves calm, to be able to keep everybody else calm that this is going to be okay. Everybody's going to be okay.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. It's just that centering, right? You just have to you're centering
Yes.
constantly. And that probably translates to things outside of business, right? Life in general can be that way. Driving on the
Life
highway
in
can be that
general.
way. Yeah,
Yes.
that's so true. When you joined Demar, or I guess you said you joined, but you kind of like launched it together. Sounds like. What were some of the operational challenges that maybe you inherited or came about, and how did you prioritize, what to deal with? And I assume you centered, but I'm curious what those.
Yes.
Yeah,
We definitely had plans, but our original plans was just they didn't work at the beginning. I would say that it was a lot of throwing spaghetti at a wall and seeing what stuck. And a lot of it didn't stick. And so we had to do a lot of pivoting. It was a lot of technology challenges and trying to get our tech stack into place, trying to figure out what our company culture was going to be, trying to figure out how our departments were going to run operationally, trying to figure out structure, trying to get people into places where they had strengths. It just was a lot of it it felt like we were beating a new path. Instead of just taking the path that every other firm had walked, we didn't want to do that. It was more like we had just taken a machete and decided to make a new path through a jungle. And so there were just a lot of new obstacles in our way. We both of us had been in the finance field for a long time, and we just had a new vision for what we wanted to see a firm be. And we didn't want to follow the old paths anymore. And it meant being trailblazers. And when you're a trailblazer, you just don't know what's going to be ahead of you. If it's going to be a cliff that you need to build a bridge over, or if it's going to be a giant boulder in your way, or if there's other hazards. But we just kept having to pivot and just live from one dumpster fire to the next.
yeah, yeah. How long have you guys been around? Like, when did you start?
Since April of 2023,
Okay, and what's the size of your team now?
20 people.
Wow. Okay, yeah, that's significant growth. That's good. That's excellent. So, I know you mentioned you work with a lot of nonprofits, but you do work with across a lot of industries. Do you see a lot of common operational blind spots, or do some you see more frequently than others? And yeah, come into a
Yes.
business.
Nonprofits have their own special set of blind spots. I would say that nonprofits' blind spots would be that founders have a lot of passion for their nonprofit, but they have a hard time with growth because they don't trust other people enough to delegate.
Yep.
They just want to do everything themselves because they don't trust enough to let go. And so they get to a point where they can only get it as far as they can get it, and then it plateaus.
Yep. Yep.
Um, in the for-profit realm, um, there are a lot of blind spots that people only know what they know and they don't know what they don't know. And they want to save money. And so they will save money by trying to do everything at the beginning instead of doing the things that will cause them to make money.
Yep. Yep.
And it does save them money, But since they're spending their time like doing, say, the accounting work, the taxes, the marketing, all this other stuff, rather than doing the thing that they're good at, then they are limiting the amount of income that they could be making.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that where companies, and I've been an entrepreneur too, you neglect to formalize processes until a problem hits. And on that note, what would you say are 2 or 3 control weaknesses, when a company is scaling? Um, say 2 to $10 million revenue. Are there things you run into there that, you said control weaknesses along that idea of not, you know, not really formalizing a process?
Yes, so sometimes they hire their friends and family. They don't do background checks on employees. They don't have great accounting systems, and so they're making decisions based off of gut feelings rather than based off of data-driven decisions. Um, they will often overextend themselves by doing putting too much energy in the wrong places to save money rather than pushing their business forward by using their skills in the direction that they should be to move their business forward,
Yeah, those are
like the
great
thing they're good
points.
at.
Yeah, exactly. You don't think about, like, hiring family as a blind spot, but it's so common, just so common, and then it just creates all kinds of problems, sometimes up front, sometimes down the road, as you know, especially if you have to get rid of them, or you should. It's costing you a lot of money. Um, so
Because their family might be nice and trustworthy, but their family may not be skilled enough for the position they need.
right, right, and then all the emotions involved, and, oh, it just gets so ugly sometimes, and
Yes.
as an advisor, I would think you get called in to arbitrate that sometimes, I would think, or
Quite
to
frequently.
yeah,
Yes.
and what do you think's best? And then now you have it's like people pick sides, and then you're the enemy of one, and it's just, yeah, it probably gets
Half of
pretty
our job
ugly.
is therapy.
It is the
Yep.
last thing you think of when you think of accounting, like therapy, yeah. I know my father was a social worker, and our dinner tables were like, "Okay, here was the scenario. What would you do in this situations?" Um, it's fascinating. I wish my mom had been an accountant. It would have maybe, yeah, could have probably gone into your line of work, sounds like. So, let's dig into automation for a second. When you're talking to a business about automating bookkeeping, payroll, tax workflows, what are and I think you're an expert on this too. It sounds like what are some of the biggest mistakes you see in choosing tools, or defining the process?
Yes. So they oftentimes will get tools that have automation options in them and then they don't use them. Um, or they don't trust them. So on the far end of the spectrum, I have seen people with QuickBooks desktop programs that will not attach their computers to the internet because they are afraid of having their QuickBooks desktop hacked into.
Yes.
Then I have seen people with their only laptop that has their QuickBooks desktop on it, not attached to the internet because they've been afraid of it. Their laptop will get stolen
Yes.
and all the data is gone.
Yes.
Um, not useful, not
Yes.
useful at all.
Yes. So
And
do you
so
encourage them to go to QuickBooks Online then pretty quickly and try to
very
sell
much
that?
so.
Yeah.
That is one of the first things we do is tell them you need to get on QuickBooks Online for a few reasons. Number one is cloud storage. Is that most people with QuickBooks Desktop, they don't back up their systems properly. Um, Another reason is the ability to have skilled people work on your books from anywhere. Uh, they oftentimes will hire bookkeepers that are maybe $10 to $15 an hour who are more secretarial level, and they're still not getting the data that they need. They're doing a lot of manual entry. It's taking way too much time. It's incorrect data, and they're just not getting the information that they need to be able to make the good decisions that they need.
Yes.
So that's
It's
one of the first things that we do is encourage them, get on to QuickBooks Online. Your information is already on the internet. Sure, it
yes,
could be hacked on QuickBooks Online. That's possible, but your banking is already on the internet. It's
that's
too
true.
late.
That's true. Right. Yeah. What are you really trying to hide here? Right. Yeah. It's because we do a ton of, as software developers, we do a ton of integration with QuickBooks. That's probably what you just described is probably the number one thing we run across is these same things you just mentioned. While we have a server in some dark closet somewhere, Sally makes a copy and takes it home every week. At least we hope she does, and that's fear, all fear based, and it's just not real practical. But you kind of can understand. I mean, especially old school people, right, who've been using it for 20,
Yes.
25 years, and it's just the way they've always done it, and it's all they know, and it feels safe. So we have factories actually that have Ethernet cables for their data, and they plug them in at night for about an hour or two, wait for the download, unplug it because they just do not want to be connected. Uh, it's
And
pretty
QuickBooks
illogical.
Desktop does not play well with firewalls and servers.
It's true.
There have been too many times I've had to build holes through firewalls because it's just tried to plug up the firewalls and stopped connecting to servers.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. Sometimes too, do you guys? I mean, we get involved in migrating data from QuickBooks Desktop to online. Do you guys, as a company, assist with that as well? I mean, maybe that's where
We
technical
can.
people. Yeah. Okay.
We have a number of people who have done that. It's easier to do it on site than it is to do it remotely, but it
Yes.
can be done. If we're close enough by, I've been a QuickBooks Pro advisor for probably a good 15 years now. I actually just gave it up this year because it was really serving me no purpose anymore, but I've done a number of QuickBooks migrations on site before.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
tried to do them remotely. It's possible, it's just not as easy.
Yeah. When you go on site too, well, we've tried to go on site when possible too, because you actually can help them in a more of a consultative way too, because so many you almost realize how manual so many processes are. You're just like, wow,
Yes.
you're really walking that piece of paper, 100 feet across the room to hand to somebody, and it has to be manually entered again. And the other thing that kills me sometimes is they'll run 100, 200. I've seen 1,000-person company run on Excel spreadsheets, and you just shake your
Yes.
head.
I've
You're just
seen
like,
that too. It's
and I
insane.
tell them, "Great job for getting here. Good job. You've made it this far, but, you may wanna think twice about, the future here." But it's almost always, some president or COO or some C-level executive who is in control of that, and they just, they're older, they just don't wanna change, and I get it, adoption's hard and change is hard, and you wanna pick your battles, right? But it's such a
But
potential
there's
weakness.
accounting firms that still run that way too. That is the
Really?
problem.
Okay.
There are just too many CPA firms that follow the old paths that they were taught by their mentors that do things still very manually, very Excel spreadsheets. And that is one of the things that drew Eric and I together was that we didn't want to do things the old way. We're both very technologically advanced and we wanted to push the envelope as far as technology goes.
Yeah. Yeah, good for you. It's funny, I had, a bunch of questions for you today, and, like, you are so good here. Every time I think of the next question, I'm like, "She's already answered that." Yeah. Kudos to you. You're doing a good job, like, trying to keep up
I've
with
been
you.
doing
Should
this
be
for
the other way.
so long. This will show my age a little bit. When I started my career in accounting, back in the early 2000s, I was typing up the 941 forms on a typewriter.
Yes.
And I was just like, as soon as I could stop that, I was just like, never again.
Yes, that does date you, but dates me because I remember those days too. So, yeah, I remember the carbon copies, right? At the three or four copies,
Yes.
and you had to strike it.
And
And
if you got one wrong, you just had to throw the page away and start all over.
yeah, or that little void box with the little square, you had to hit the X just right. I know. Oh, so
Then the dot matrix printers to have to do payroll would take 4 hours with
yeah,
the screeching sounds.
yes, yes. Our older audience can appreciate this too, but the printers with the paper that had holes on both sides of the paper, and it just that sound, I can just still hear the sound. So, and you probably more than
It
me
was
because you were
terrible.
in a tax environment. So, oh man, the good old
Yes,
days.
yes.
Yes, yes. Speaking of taxes, tax rules, as we mentioned, dumpster fires is always evolving, right? And now you got new technologies emerging as this dumpster fires are happening. Um, when you talk to a firm about designing their systems, and they got to remain agile, and yet controlled, so you're not always rebuilding the systems when the rules change. Um, how do you design that with the firms? How do you come in and advise them accordingly? Trying to thread this needle, it
That
seems.
yes, that is very difficult. For one thing, we have to stay in very close contact with our clients. So I am constantly getting updates from the IRS. I'm on all of their newsletters, and every time they have major stuff come out or even minor stuff come out, I get newsletters all the time, probably 3 times a day or so. I read those newsletters, and even with my team, we're frequently talking about the new updates. And so I contact the general public that follow me on LinkedIn by putting out this information on LinkedIn. So that's one way that I try to get information out there because there's so much bad information. The people on TikTok that are just trying to get views, it's just amazing how much bad information that's coming from my clients that they send me a TikTok to watch, and I'm like, "No, no, no, that's just not how it works." But then with our accounting clients that we have more of a relationship with, then we are able to have weekly and monthly meetings with them, and they have a lot more trust in us because of those, and we're able to get more of that information with them. We have more tax planning with them. This time of year is the perfect time to do tax planning, and that's what I'm trying to get out to everybody because this time of year you have a good idea of what your income is going to be for the year. We've had some major tax law changes that have happened throughout the year with the big beautiful bill, and there's time to make financial changes between now and the end of the year. After the year ends, there's a few changes you can still make, but not very many. All of them are pretty much related to retirement planning, your IRAs, but those are more Hail Mary situations. There's a lot more options right now. And so this is your best time to talk to somebody who knows accurate information and have them crunch your numbers in respect to the new tax law changes. And even if your stuff has been stable and simple for many years, at least look at it now and say, is it going to be the same as it has been? Am I gonna owe more? Am I going to have a refund? What am I looking at now?
Yeah,
Should
yeah,
I invest more into my IRAs? Should I do a Roth conversion? What am I looking at?
yeah, yeah. Are
My
you
other
able to?
suggestion is that your tax person and your certified financial planner, your CFP, should be working together. It doesn't work if you, as a client, are ping ponging around back and forth between the two. I would get them together in a meeting, at least
Oh,
on a
good.
Zoom call where they're talking together, because the tax planning path and your wealth management path can be two different paths, and you want them married into one path together.
Um, Tasha, this has been incredibly insightful. I really appreciate you sharing your system wise thinking. But final question for you here. So if there's business owners listening and they could take just one, and you could give them just one operational habit or systems change that they could make this week or this month, what would you tell them to do?
Oh, trying to get down to one is hard.
Yeah. Okay. Two or three things they could look at.
So it would
I kind of
actually
thought you were going
be
to say take a jujitsu lesson.
no, not everybody's up for that. That's
Yeah, it's
hard and
true.
painful. But for finance, it would be one, but it would be really two parts, A and B. Right now, like I said, is the best part time for tax planning. But to be able to do that, you have to have good numbers because trash in, trash out when it comes to math. So, um, tax planning, but your accounting system has to be up to date. So, get a good accounting system and then do some tax planning.
Very good. Good. Um, Thanks again for joining us today on the Systems Edge. I do look forward to the impact your insights are going to have on our audience, and this has been great. I really, really appreciate it. Can't thank you enough.
It's been
Thank
nice
you.
being here. Thank you for inviting me.